Have you ever opened your eyes in the middle of the night and found your cat already staring at you, not moving, not making a sound, just sitting there, watching? For a brief moment, it almost feels unsettling. Why would your cat spend part of the night looking at you instead of sleeping? Is it simply being curious? Is it protecting you? Or could your cat be trying to tell you something you've never understood? The answer is far more fascinating than most people realize. Because according to modern feline behavior research, this quiet habit may reveal one of the deepest forms of trust a cat can show. But to understand why, we first have to understand how cats see us. Most people assume they understand their cat. They know when it's hungry. They know its favorite sleeping spot. They know the sound of its different meows. But very few people stop to ask a much more interesting question. What does your cat think when it looks at you? Not when you're playing together. Not when you're feeding it, but when you're completely asleep. Because while you believe nothing is happening, your cat may be learning more about you than you realize. And that's exactly what surprised researchers. Cats have shared our homes for thousands of years, yet they remain one of the most misunderstood companion animals on Earth. Unlike dogs, cats rarely express themselves in obvious ways. They don't wag their tails with excitement. They don't constantly seek reassurance. Instead, cats communicate through quiet choices: where they sit, who they follow, who they sleep beside, and who they choose to watch. That last behavior is especially intriguing because cats are incredibly selective with their attention. They don't spend hours watching things that don't matter. Observation requires energy, and in nature, energy is precious. So when a cat repeatedly watches the same person, researchers believe it's rarely meaningless. To understand why, we have to go back thousands of years, long before cats slept on comfortable beds. Their ancestors survived alone. Unlike wolves, they didn't depend on a pack. Every decision was their own. Every sound had to be evaluated. Every movement had to be understood. Every unfamiliar situation could mean danger. That ancient survival strategy shaped the modern cat's brain. Observe first, react second. It's one of the reasons cats seem so patient. Sometimes they'll sit perfectly still, watching, waiting, collecting information before making a decision. That instinct never disappeared. It simply moved from the wild into our homes. Now think about what happens when you fall asleep. Your voice disappears. Your movements slow. Your breathing becomes steady. Your scent fills the room. From your cat's perspective, you've suddenly become completely different. You're no longer interacting. You're no longer responding. You're simply there. For an animal that constantly studies patterns, this becomes an incredibly interesting moment. Some experts believe sleeping humans provide one of the calmest, most predictable situations in a cat's daily routine, and cats are naturally drawn toward environments they understand, because predictability often means safety. But safety isn't the only reason your cat might be watching. Scientists have uncovered another possibility, one that completely changes the way many people interpret those quiet eyes in the darkness. And once you hear what researchers discovered, you'll probably never look at your sleeping cat the same way again. So, what have scientists actually discovered? For decades, many people believed cats simply tolerated human company. Unlike dogs, they were often described as distant, independent, even emotionally detached. But over the last several years, that idea has started to fall apart. Researchers studying feline behavior found something unexpected. Many cats don't just recognize the people they live with. They form genuine emotional attachments to them. In other words, your cat isn't simply sharing your home. It's sharing its life with someone it has learned to trust. And trust changes behavior. Once a cat feels emotionally secure, it begins paying closer attention to the individual who provides that security. Suddenly, those quiet moments in the middle of the night don't seem so mysterious anymore. Think about your own cat. Maybe you've opened one eye at 3 in the morning, only to find two calm eyes looking back at you. Not wide with fear, not aggressive, just watching. A few seconds later, your cat quietly curls up beside you and falls asleep. If you've experienced that, you're not alone. Thousands of owners describe almost exactly the same behavior. And the more researchers study cats, the more this pattern begins to make sense. Because cats are experts at learning routines. They know what time you wake up, when you usually turn over in bed, the sound of your footsteps, even the rhythm of your breathing. To you, those details feel ordinary. To your cat, they're part of a daily pattern that helps make the world feel predictable. And for an animal that evolved by carefully reading its environment, predictability often means safety. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. What if your cat isn't only watching you? What if it's also quietly watching everything happening around you? Even while resting, cats remain remarkably alert. Their hearing detects tiny sounds that most people never notice. A branch brushing against a window, a distant noise in the hallway, the movement of another pet. While you're completely asleep, your cat is still collecting information, not because it's worried, because that's simply how a cat experiences the world. Observation is one of its oldest survival instincts, and when you become part of that safe environment, you naturally become part of what your cat chooses to observe. Of course, every cat is different. One cat may quietly sit beside the bed, another may sleep through the entire night without looking at you once. Neither behavior automatically means your cat loves you more or less. Cats express trust in different ways. Some stay close, some slow blink, some gently rub against your legs. Others simply choose to remain in the same room. The behavior may look different, but the message can often be exactly the same. I feel safe with you. There is one important exception. If your cat suddenly begins staring far more than usual, especially if the behavior appears alongside hiding, loss of appetite, weight loss, restlessness, or unusual vocalizing, don't assume it's simply becoming more affectionate. Cats are incredibly skilled at hiding illness. Sometimes, a subtle change in behavior is one of the earliest signs that something isn't right. Behavior should always be viewed as part of a bigger picture. When several changes appear together, a veterinary visit is the safest decision. So, the next time you wake up and notice your cat quietly watching you, don't immediately wonder if something is wrong. Instead, take a closer look. Does your cat seem calm? Is its body relaxed? Does it blink slowly when you notice it? Does it settle back down once it knows you're awake? Those small details often tell a much bigger story than the staring itself. Because cats rarely communicate with dramatic gestures. They communicate through patterns, through routine, through quiet choices repeated over time. Perhaps that's the biggest misunderstanding about cats. People often expect love to be obvious. Dogs wag their tails. People hug. Friends smile. Cats speak a quieter language, a language built on trust, presence, routine, and silent companionship. The more scientists learn about feline behavior, the clearer one thing becomes. If your cat quietly watches you while you sleep, it probably isn't trying to frighten you. It isn't secretly plotting against you. And it isn't behaving strangely. It may simply be checking that the person it trusts most is still there. Because in your cat's world, safety isn't just a place. Sometimes, safety is a person. And if your cat chooses to watch over you in the quietest hours of the night, that may be one of the most meaningful compliments it can ever give. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden psychology behind feline behavior, make sure to subscribe to Cat Mind Code, because every week we'll explore the fascinating science that helps us understand
our cat's a little better, and you may discover they've been communicating with you all along.